So here we have our slab that we're gonna do some flattening to, and it's kind of tough to see from this angle, but if we get down here close to it, we can see that this slab is anything but flat, right? And this slab in particular is all end grain. You can see this is a cookie that I cut off of a tree that we had taken down in my backyard, and it has air dried for a couple of years. It is ready to use and turn into something. But before I can do a whole lot of useful stuff with it, I got to take care of this discrepancy in thickness from one side to the other. With it being all end grain, it just isn't safe or proper to use the planer. The way the planer works, it would destroy both the board and potentially the planer itself. So we have a slab flattening fixture here called a router sled. The router sled consists of two rails, one on the left and right, and then we have this sled that slides along those two rails. And you can see up here in the sled, the router has a slot cut out in the center there that we can run this router at a consistent height to make a consistent thickness on whatever slab we have there. The way we have this set up, we have a couple of different heights that we can work with. I have the bottom of the sled's table right here for something that is extra thick, and then we have a little bit thinner right here where we're raised up another 3/4 of an inch. And then we also have some other just thin strips that we can use to build up our slab and get it closer to the sled here itself, and instead of trying to reach way down with the router. So we'll set up our cookie, our slab right here. We'll get that secured into the sled, and then we'll start flattening. So I have my slab on the table of the sled now. I have my sled secured down to my workbench. And if we get down low here, we can see currently where the router bit is located. I have a huge discrepancy in thickness here. And up here at the top end, I need to remove some material before I can even have this thin enough to set it up on this side. And ultimately, I'm going to try and flatten all of it down to what this thinnest thickness is right now. And at this point, I don't even care what that thickness is. I just want to make this entire slab a consistent thickness. So to do that, we want to set it up on the table here in such a way that we'll be able to set the depth of that router bit. And I want to make sure that I secure this in, and right now there's some rock to it. So if your slab rocks, it's a good idea to put some sort of wedge underneath it to make sure that it's not moving on you while you're routing it. So I'm going to secure this down, and then we'll get routing. So I have my slab fastened down now. I just took 2 pieces of the scrap wood and used them to wedge this slab in here. So now this can't move anymore. It's held in tight. There's no rocking to it. So now I can set up the rest of my sled. Put this up on top. Get my router in here. And at this point, since my slab is secured, now I can set the depth to where I want it. So I can adjust the depth setting on the router, and really I can see that right now I have this at the max depth setting that I can get it to, and I can see that that is not too deep. I'm only going to take a little bit of this off up here. So I'm going to go ahead and set this up and take this amount off of everything that I can reach, and then we'll reposition to get it a little bit thinner beyond that. All right, so we can see our first pass is done here. So now I'm going to raise this up onto the next height right here and get it all locked down again, and then we'll do it again. So now we're going to reset the depth. I need to raise it up a decent bit for this next pass. Don't want to take too much all the time. That looks like a good amount right there. I'm looking to take probably no more than like a 1/4 inch per pass. You can see we're making a lot of progress here, getting it a lot flatter. And we're getting close. I'm gonna finish up here. I had to remove a little bit of the sawdust up here just so I could get the router all the way over to the end. But we're starting to get pretty close to having one uniform surface here. So we'll keep going. All right, so now we can see I've gotten just about this entire side. So it's a whole lot flatter. I got a couple little spots that I missed, and I have one little low spot here that I can't reach anymore with the router where it's currently set. So I'm gonna take the slab off. I'm gonna put some rails underneath it to raise it up a little bit. I'm gonna secure it down again one more time. Do this side one last pass to get it down to one uniform height. And then I'm gonna flip it over and clean up the other side, and then we'll have a nice flat slab. All right, so I have my slab secured in for a final height here. I'm up real close to the maximum height that I can go with something this high, or something this thick. So I'm gonna reassemble. And now this is gonna be my last pass on this side. So now I'm gonna set my router depth to what I believe to be the thinnest of my thicknesses, which is right about here. So I'm gonna bring that over to that low spot, that low area, and I'm going to adjust my depth to match that as best I can. That looks pretty close right there. I'm going to lock that in, and here we go. I do think it's pretty impressive how much you can take at a time. I'm removing this material here with very little effort on the router's part. Now, it just so happens that I'm so tight up against the bottom of the sled here that there's no place for the sawdust to go. So I do have to stop periodically and just clear this out. That should give you a pretty good shot showing just how much material we're removing there. I'm probably getting about 3/8 of an inch right now, and that is going without any sort of hitch. So I'm going to try and start at one end and see if maybe I don't have to vacuum it out quite as much. So you can see I'm missing a little bit over here. Part of that is because of all the dust that accumulates in this end of the sled. So vacuuming that out is going to hopefully help with that a decent bit. So I'm gonna pick that back up here. All right, so now I have one flat surface. With the exception of some of this bark right here, which I'm going to peel off after I'm done with this anyway, so I'm not worried about this little bit of bark sticking up. If you're having trouble getting the edges here, you can simply put a spacer block in behind your piece here. I used the edge of the rails here to secure my board. So if I needed to bring that out a little bit, it wouldn't be that big of a deal to it. Now I'm going to flip it over, do the other side. All right, my board is nice and secure again. I can see that this looks way flatter, more level than it used to, because now I have a flat surface on the bottom instead of this milled surface here. So now I'm going to set it to one final depth. This should all be a pretty uniform cut, and I'm planning for this to be my final depth, my final cut. So this one I'm not planning to take off as much as I've been for my previous cuts. So I'm going to set it to about the height, just a hair lower than what I think the thinnest part of my board is. And this hopefully is my final cut. All right, so my slab is now flat. Should be consistent thickness all the way around. Now, if I want it to be a particular thickness, and right here I have a little bit of bark sticking up, but like I said, I'm gonna take this bark off. You can see that it is ready to just about be pulled off. So I'm gonna pry that stuff off in just a minute. And there we go. Got the bark off of there. So now I have a nice, consistently thick slab of wood. My next step, I'm gonna start doing some sanding to it to get all these milling marks out of it, all the marks that I just put in with the router. So that is the next step.